This is Brachot daf memchet amud aleph, and at the bottom of the daf, the Gemara recounts a story of Yanai HaMelech, where Yanai was having a meal and had no one to say Birchas Hamazon for him. So he asked Shimon ben Shetach to bench. Shimon ben Shetach says, I can't bench because I never ate. And essentially, he drank a cup of wine, and then he benched for them. So the Gemara says about this, Amar Rav Ava Breda Rav Chia bar Ava, Shimon ben Shetach ta'avad legarmehu ta'avad. Shimon ben Shetach's actions here were, he was acting on his own against the accepted halachic practice. Tahachi Amar Rabbi Chia bar Abba Amar B'Yochanan Le'olam Eino Motzi Et HaRabbi Midei Chavasan Ad Sheyochal Kazayis Dagan. Because you can't bench on behalf of others unless you yourself ate at least a kazayas worth, an olive's volume of bread. And that seems to be the Gemara's conclusion. That you can't bench for someone else without having eaten yourself, but if you've eaten a kazayas, you can bench for someone else. Tosfot on the bottom of the page is Dibur Matchil Ad Sheyochal Kazayas Dagan. Mashma, the Gemara here implies she'im achal kazayis dagan sheyachal lahotzi afacherim she'achlu ala sova. The Gemara here implies that Shimon ben Shetach was wrong because he tried to bench for others without having eaten a kazayis. But had he eaten a kazayis, he would be able to bench, according to our Gemara, for other people, even if the others ate ala sova, even if the others had a full meal. V'tema, and this is astonishing. V'harei kazayis eino chayav ela midrabanan. We know that if someone eats a kazayis of bread, he's only obligated to eat midrabanan. V'heichi asi dirabanan upatar diaraisa. Even if Shimon ate a kazayis, how could he bench for others who ate a full amount, who ate a full meal? A dirabanan can't be motzi, or can't make someone pater if they're obligated diaraisa. How do I know? Besides the fact that it's intuitive to Tosfot, he brings a proof. To Ha'amin on Parak Misha Meso, the Gemara says earlier in Daf Chafim Abeis, Tavo ma'ara l'misha ishto ubanav mevarchim lo. That it's very negative, it's cursed if someone has to fulfill his benching by having his wife or his child bench for him. It's very negative because it represents the fact that he himself doesn't know how to bench, he's not literate. Okay, so the Gemara says that it's not impressive if that's the case, but it's clear that that would work to fulfill your obligations. And the Gemara says, how could that be? V'lo mati le'ukmei hadu sharu l'katan sheyachal lahotzi aviv ela b'da'achal aviv kazayas. The Gemara struggles to figure out how this is possible, that a child would even be able to bench for his father. And they say the only possibility is where the katan, the child, ate a meal, and the father only ate a kazayas. Because in that case, they're on equal footing. They're both chayav derabanan. To asi katan derabanan, the child whose obligation in general is derabanan sheigila chinuch, because he's old enough for chinuch, which is a mitzvah derabanan to bench. Upater aviv she'eno chayav ela miderabanan, he can bench for his father, who's also only chayav derabanan because of the fact that he ate only a kazayas. Ha'im achal aviv k'dei sfiya, implying that the father would have eaten a full meal, eino yachal lepotra, that the child would not be able to do the mitzvah on behalf of the father. So here Tosfos presents a contradiction, that the Gemara Daf Chav says that a derabanan can't bench for a diraisa, and the Gemara Memches says that if Shimon would have eaten a kazayas, the derabanan could bench for the diraisa. Upirish Rashi, so Rashi addresses this and says, "Du mechuyav derabanan mechuyav karinan bey." That derabanan is actually chayav. Chayav is chayav. If someone's chayav derabanan, he's considered mechuyav b'davar and could do the mitzvah on behalf of someone who even ate diraisa. Aval katan But the case of katan is an exception. Katan sheigi lechinuch lo mikri mechuyev d'Rabbanan. The case of the child is unique because he's not chayev at all. The aviv chayev lechancho. The obligation of chinuch is incumbent on the father. Aval alav ein shum chayev, but the child himself has no obligation at all. So a child can't bench for his father when his father ate a full meal because it's a non-chayev at all benching for someone who's chayev d'oraisa. But if the child would actually be chayev d'Rabbanan, he would be able to bench for someone who ate a full shear. And in the same case, Shimon Shetach, if he eats a kazayas, can bench for someone who had a full meal. V'kasha leperusha, but Tosfot challenges this. Mikol makom, kevan she'eno min haTorah, eno mosi acherim shemechuyavim. Because still, how can a derabanan be motzi a deraisa? You have to be chayev in the mitzvah to do it for somebody else. And in respect to the obligation deraisa, the derabanan is not a chayev at all. V'o dochek lomar b'katan she'igi lechinuch kari eno mechuyev derabanan. And it's very difficult to say that the child is considered not chayev at all, and it's only the father. Because if he's not chayev at all, even d'Rabbanan, imkein eno poter aviv, how could he bench for his father in the case that the father had a kazayas? Obviously, we're considering the child to be chayev d'Rabbanan, and in fact, Tosfot considers the obligation of chinuch a chayev on the child, who himself is chayev d'Rabbanan. So therefore, Tosfot rejects Rashi. Bahag piresh, de echad she'achal kazayis eino yachal lahotzi acherim she'achal k'dei sviya. The Bahag rules, in fact, that against Rashi, that someone who ate a kazayis can't be motzi someone who had a full meal. The lo asi d'Rabbanan of pater d'Oraisa, because the d'Rabbanan can't do the mitzvah for someone who's chayev d'Oraisa. Aval kishalo achlu gam ha'acherim ra kazayis poter osa. But if they're both chayev d'Rabbanan, then he could bench for them. Which is exactly what Tosfot was thinking, but the Bahag seemed to disregard the implication of the Gemara Memches, the story of Yanai. V'lohi, da samchina na'uvda di Yanai. This is not correct, because the Gemara is ruling in respect to the case of Yanai, v'chaverav and his friends, this case is the halacha. V'heim achlu k'dei sviya. Yanai and his friends ate a full meal. V'afilu hachi kachazina. We still see the kalpatu l'shimon shetach. The shimon shetach was able to bench for them. He benched having wine, but the Gemara says that he could have benched if he had a kazayas. Ella nira l'chalek. Tosfot therefore says that there must be a distinction. The katan she'enu bar chiyuva klal d'oraisa afilu achal k'dei sviya. The katan is different because the child is completely not in the chiyuv of benching, even if he had a full meal. Hilkach eno mechuyev b'davar karinan bey. He's in the category of eno mechuyev b'davar, completely. Lekach lo mafik le iachal shiur d'oraisa. Therefore, the child can't bench for the adult in the case that the adult ate an amount d'oraisa. Aval gadol shehu bar chiyuva min haTorah ki achal k'dei sviya. But the adult who is chayav d'oraisa in the case that he ate a full amount. Aval gadol shehu bar chiyuva min haTorah ki achal k'dei sviya. In the case that the adult has a full meal, he's chayav d'oraisa. Therefore, mechuyev b'davar karinan bey. Therefore, he is in the category of chayav. Afilu lo achal klal, even if he doesn't eat at all. And Tosfot explains that this is based on the Gemara of Rosh Hashanah. K'darmina b'Rosh Hashanah, kol brachos. The Gemara says in Rosh Hashanah, when it comes to all brachos, af al pi sheyatza motzi. Even if you've already fulfilled your mitzvah, and you're no longer chayav to do your mitzvah, motzi, you could still do it for somebody else. Chutz mi birchas alechem and birchas hayayin, with the exception of brachos before food. V'hainu time, and this is the reason the Gemara gives, the Chol Yisrael arevim zeh bazeh. Because all Jews are responsible for one another. So even if you've completed your obligation, you're still not completely done with your obligation. You're still responsible to be concerned for others, and therefore you can still do the mitzvah for other people. V'hua din b'virchas hamazon. Just like if you blew shofar once, you can blow again for someone else who needs to. You're still in the category of chayav, even though you've done the mitzvah already. The same is true about birchas hamazon, that even though I don't need to bench right now because I didn't eat right now, afal pi sheyatza motzi kidafrisha. Still, you're still in the category of chayav, and therefore you can bench for somebody else. Even you don't really need to eat at all to bench for somebody else. Just like if you heard the shofar already, you can blow for someone else again and again. So too, if you benched already for yourself, or you benched yesterday, or you didn't eat today, you're chayav in the mitzvah of benching, and you can bench for others even though you didn't eat this minute. A child, on the other hand, is never chayav to bench, and therefore the child isn't included in arevos and can't bench for an adult ever. Really, you can bench for someone else even without eating at all. Ukazayas dagan, and that which the Gemara says you need to eat a kazayas, eino tzarich ela sheyuchal lomar she'achalnu mishalo. Really, you don't need to eat at all. And that which the Gemara says you need to eat a kazayas of dagan to bench for someone else is only in order to say the word she'achalnu mishalo, the part of the zimun, where you say that you've eaten, is a lie unless you've eaten. So you need to eat a kazayas, but not because it makes you obligated to yoraisa, but because it enables you to say the word she'achalnu mishalo. And the assumption is that Shimon ben Shetach himself, who felt you didn't need to eat at all, only to drink wine, felt the same way, that you don't need to eat to bench because of arevos, and he thought that drinking was enough to say she'achalnu mishalo. But we hold, the Gemara concludes, that you need to eat in order to say she'achalnu mishalo.